G'day everyone. Back in my office still. It's currently 6:25 and I think I turned the computer on at about 7 o'clock this morning. Yeah, I did go and grab a pizza and came back and ate it and then finished off some work that I promised that I was going to get done tonight. And yeah, that's been done and sent, and I've even SMS'd him to say that I have sent it. So which is good. Why am I not out bush? Well, couple of reasons really. The first one is that I need to head off to Murray Bridge tomorrow morning. There's a couple of things I need. I've been collecting water. The biggest problem with the property out there is that there's no actual natural water. And as much as I said in yesterday's video, a lot of the soaks that the Ngarrkhat Aboriginals used to use pretty much don't exist anymore. You do still get the mallee trees out there, but I'm not running around killing mallee trees for water when I've got water here in the house that I can take out there. So I use tap water to basically wash the dishes, have a shower, do all those sort of mundane things that we all do. Well, some people do. Some people get their partners to do it, but it gets done anyway. I don't, however, use tap water in the kettle. I actually get what we call boxed water. So it comes in a box, and there's about 10 litres of spring water in there. It's a lot fresher. It tastes a lot better. Doesn't taste like toothpaste. That's the fluoride, by the way. So, and the funny thing is, it doesn't actually ruin kettles. So water around here tends to have a certain level of salt content. And so you keep filling up a kettle with tap water around here, and you're going to be replacing a kettle probably every 3 to 6 months. I've now had my kettle for 5 years and it's fine, even though it was only a $25 kettle. And because of where I live, I've actually got a spare brand new kettle that I've never used and I've never even taken out of the box. So once that water is actually empty in the bladder, then you can actually refill them. So that's what I've been doing. I've just been refilling them with tap water. Why tap water, not sort of spring water? Well, because of the stuff that's actually in it, it tends to last a lot longer. I mean, I boil everything out bush before I actually use it, so it's not so bad. But that's what's out there, and I've managed to collect around about 13 bladders, so about 130 litres of water. It's a lot of water. So how do you actually store it better? Well, caravans and RVs have water tanks. They're normally mounted underneath the caravan or RV, and they hold, depending on what size tank you get, there's two versions. There's a 62 litre version and there's a 90 litre version. So one of the things I'm going to grab when I'm in Murray Bridge is actually a caravan water tank, possibly two. Because I've got other water out there that can't be where it is at the moment, and it's got to go into something a little bit more safer. And caravan RV water tanks are actually designed to hold tap water, whatever water you want to put in there for long periods of time. So, and it's, yeah, it'll be good. And I've got to go to JB Hi-Fi and grab a headset with a microphone. Thus, that way I can start having actual conversations live on my channel when I get to 50 subscribers with Chance Paladin. We've already teed it up. I've got no idea what we'll talk about, but I think we're both reasonably intelligent people. He's more so. Very smart bloke. And so, yeah, I think we'll just have a bit of fun and see what happens. Who knows? Hopefully we'll get a few laughs and he can pay me out for kangaroos and koalas and just being an Australian, I suppose. And I can just call him a bloody American because that's what we do. So yeah, so hopefully that'll all go ahead. So yeah, busy day tomorrow, and I've got a few other things to do. Probably need to grab some more cans of food and stuff like that. But yeah, that'll go in buckets and join its friends. So yeah, that's tomorrow. We were actually talking today, talked for about 2.5 hours, I suppose, after Marfoogle TV had finished. He went live, and WizGen, Jennifer from Wisconsin, joined us, and along with Billy and Nacho and a few others. So it was really, really good to see everyone there and supporting Chance and supporting each other. And it's kind of that sort of family, I suppose, even though we've never actually met, we'll probably never meet. In fact, I will never leave Australia, so unless they come here. Oh, and Optical Gem, or Gem was there as well. Yeah, it was good to have a chat. And part of the conversation sort of turned around to his carport. And I made the comment, do you need approval? Here in Australia, we need approval for everything. I've been in the building industry since day dot, pretty much. And I've actually worked for local government here in Australia, and I now draw houses and extensions and God knows what else, pretty much everything. So yeah, I've had a bit of history behind it, but obviously different countries have different rules. And so here in Australia, we need approval for carports, for sheds, for scratching your bum half the time, and it all costs money, unfortunately. So, and where I live, which is, as I've said before, about 2.5 hours out of Adelaide, in South Australia. It's very much a country area. They grow wheat, barley, lucerne. There's places that do onions and potatoes and garlic and all that sort of stuff. But it's all what we call broadacre farming. So we're not talking about farming on a 10-acre block. We're talking about 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 plus acre blocks. They actually talk hectares around here. I don't think you'll find much around here that's under about 500 hectares. Most of it sits around about the 2,000 to 4,000 hectares. So they're big properties. There are bigger ones around here. But yeah, they also do sheep. There is cattle. Black Angus seems to be the popular one. And this area's been going since, well, the town was founded in around about 1911, 1912. And back then, if you needed a house, you just went and built it. There were no approvals. And most of the houses although they've been replaced, some of them are actually still in operation. And all of them were pretty much built out of local materials. They hand cut trees that they'd felled. They basically used whatever materials were around to build these things. They used the local stone to build the chimneys, and there's actually a place called Box Flat where there's actually an old sheep, where a sheep herder's accommodation, I suppose, away from the main homestead, which was the Gower homestead. And the only thing that's left is the stone fireplace. That's all that's left. There's no other, all the timber's been reused for other things. But a lot of the shearing sheds have been around for 50, 60, 70 years, and all of them were built without approval, every single one of them. And they're still shearing sheep to this day in them. They get running repairs like everything else does, but otherwise they're still there. And it used to be that, if you wanted a carport put on the side of the house, a couple of mates would come around for a weekend, you'd get it built, you'd have a few beers afterwards and a barbecue, like Optical Gem said. That does happen. And it was done. By Sunday it was normally finished. And again, no approvals. And most of those things are still lasting to this day. They knew how to build things. They really did. And it was similar to what I said on Chance's talk thing today, was that we've got companies in Australia called Stratco. There's there's Olympic Industries, and there's a few others that basically really only deal in sheds, carports, verandas, things like that. And so they've got all the engineering details, like an engineer has to design it all for wind bracing, wind uplift, etc., etc. So they're very heavily engineered, which is why the cost, and obviously, as we go through time, steel prices and everything else has gone up. But all of them then need somebody to go through the engineering. And I got to be honest with you, I work for councils, and what happens here in South Australia in particular is that these companies will basically have a range of sheds and carports, and they'll get all the engineering done. They'll send it to all the councils, and the councils basically go through all the engineering, make sure it's all correct, so next time when, say, Chance and his wife goes into Stratco and says, oh, I want a 3 metre by 6 metre single carport, and I like that profile, and here's where I live, all they do is draw a little site plan on an A4 sheet of paper and submit it to council, and it costs probably around about the better part of $300-400. Council, it doesn't spend any more than a week, and most of that is in admin. The council guys take one look at it, stamp it, and send it on its way. It spends all of about 30 seconds on their desk. So the $300 or $400 is just ridiculous. It's almost, a lot of people are talking about NATO at the moment, and the fact that it's become a paper tiger. And it's funny that I read or heard somewhere, that basically NATO in Europe is actually one of the biggest employers across all its branches, across every country it's in. In Europe, it's bigger than BMW, way bigger than the car manufacturers. So, and if you shut down NATO, you imagine thousands of jobs no longer applicable. What do you do with them? Someone's paying their wages, and this is where most of the money goes into. At the end of the day, it's just a job that they're creating to a certain extent. You've got NATO is different than council, but it's still similar sort of situation where you're creating a job for really something that's been so engineered by a company that's been around for 40, 50, 60 years. And in all honesty, back in the old days, they used to just build it themselves. Now, I suppose the argument can be given that basically people these days don't know how to build. It's easy to get someone around, just get them to do it. That's what tradies do. And America has tradies. Guys come around, whip it up in 4 hours, like Billy said, and you're done. And you don't have to worry about it. And it's that lack of knowledge as well. Or, I remember one of the first houses I built many moons ago, and I wanted a veranda, and it had had a pitched gable roof in the middle and flat on both sides. And we got a cost. My ex-wife and I got a cost. And it was something like, I mean, at the time, it was probably about 10 or 12 grand. And so we said, well, how much is it if we build it ourselves? And they said, 5 or 6,000. So half the cost came off. And she's looking at me going, well, you can build it. And I'm thinking, no, I can't. Okay, yeah, I can build it. I'll need a hand. Yeah, my dad can come around. Okay, fair enough. Let's do that. So I built it with the help of her dad. It was a matter of buying tools because, you're looking at a certain job and you're going, how am I going to cut this sheet of iron? And you're out there with a hacksaw going, there's got to be a better way than this. And then somebody said, and then her dad said, why don't you just get an angle grinder? And it's like, yeah, good idea. So I went down to the hardware store, bought an angle grinder, came back with the worst cutting tools ever, which of course I went through 10 in one afternoon, 10 of these round cutting tools. And then someone said, no, get a diamond cutting tool. They're much better. Okay, we'll give that a go. One every 3 days. Yeah, I went from 10 in 3 hours to one every 3 days. And it was a learning experience. That was the thing. Did we get it done in 4 hours? Hell no. No, definitely no. It took us nearly 4 weeks to do the damn thing because I can only do it on the weekends. And her dad had other stuff he was doing on certain days. So no, we didn't get it all done. But we got it done and it never leaked. And this thing was 100 square meters. It wasn't small. So yeah, I was quite pleased with the way it ended out. And, it was one of those things that we actually did get the house refinanced to pay for it because we got someone to pave underneath because I wasn't going to be on my knees all day. Plus there was the compaction of these under the paving, which I had no experience in, and I wasn't going to stand on the back of one of those machines all day. But ended up doing the stormwater myself, hooked it into the house stormwater myself, did all of that, and it was brilliant. It really was. It worked really well. And by the time we sold the house, because we'd invested so much back into it, the value of it went, up. And funnily enough, the neighbour who had the same design house we didn't do anything. She got her house valued and it was nearly $90,000 less than what ours was, because she'd gone out and got a car and a computer and a couple of other things when she refinanced. We'd gone out and put paving, did the stormwater, put the veranda over, put a shed in the back, rainwater tank. And so it didn't cost us $90,000. It really didn't. It wouldn't have been any more than probably 20 by the time we'd spent everything. So yeah, the $90,000, we virtually spent 20, got 70. And that's what happens when you refinance. But yeah, it was a matter of just getting out there and doing it ourselves. But we needed approval and we got it. So yeah, it's funny how sort of, the freedoms, I suppose, and that's what it comes back to. There was a certain amount of freedom that we've kind of gradually lost over the decades. And it doesn't seem like much at the time, but then you sort of look back and go, why can't I just go and do this? I mean, it's a registered company, their experience. Why can't you just go in there, hand over your $5,000 and say you build it, and they come out there the next week and build it? Why does it then have to take 3 to 4 weeks to go through another authority to say, yes, we approve? you know, and this is kind of where I'm leading to, you know. There is a place where I'm leading to, and I won't get into it now, but gradually all these things have sort of crept in, and I think in part it's because we've become so used to just getting someone around to fix something that we've never actually tried to do it ourselves. You know, it's all too hard. Our life's too busy as it is. Well, make time. I'm making a video. I'm at 20 minutes already. I mean, 20 minutes is probably enough to be able to fix a washer, you know, rather than getting a plumber around who charges a fortune, you know, or it's enough time to wash the dishes rather than use a dishwasher. You know, it's all these little things that supposedly have made our lives better and given us more time. And if you go back to the 60s, when the introduction of all these dishwashers and, you know, microwaves and all these sort of things started coming in, the 60s and 70s and 80s, were meant to give us time back. And we've filled it with erroneous rubbish. You know, so, you know, when we could have been out there doing stuff with our hands, building things, making things, you know, spending time with the family. I mean, all these things, you know, we're so obsessed with our phones, so obsessed with the internet, he says as he's talking on the phone or facing a phone, talking on the internet. But you get where I'm coming from, I hope. So yeah, it's just this loss of ability to a certain extent, and it's also like a loss of freedom to a certain extent, and it's also a time thing. You know, everyone I speak to goes, "Oh my God, time's gone so fast. What did you do?" I don't know. Wouldn't have a clue. What were you doing 3 weeks ago? Ask me that. You know, it's we lose time because we're not filling it with things that we remember to a certain extent as well. So yeah, and some guy sort of got me to subscribe to a channel that he keeps promoting, so I did, and the guy on there was talking about the same thing. Where has time gone? You know, and it seems like everyone asks the same question at some point. Time is, we have 24 hours in a day. Okay, we sleep for at least 8. Well, chance sleeps for about 3, as far as I can tell. But most people sleep on average about 8 hours. So that still leaves a fair whack of time left. And yes, there's time to go to work and time, but what about the weekends? You know, you've got 48 hours of which you lose 16. That's still leaving a huge amount of time left. So, yeah, I don't know. I think I'll leave it there. That's probably enough thought for tonight. I'll catch you later. Have a good one.